Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm so excited to have you here. This is our final freebie yoga practice for now, at least. I'm sure I'll throw them in here and there, but for now, this is our final one. Going forward, you're going to need to register through my Patreon site. For just $10 a month, you guys get access to all the classes in March. So I have 8 of them lined up for March. And don't mind all my notes. And so we'll be doing Monday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. So that's 11 Eastern and 8 Pacific. And Thursdays at 3 Central, which is 4 Eastern or 1 Pacific. Donna asked, will we still get email notifications? Yep, you're going to get email. It'll be the same link for each week. So that'll all get sent out early next week before the 1st, which I guess Monday is the 1st. So I guess you'll get that this weekend. And so, like I said, Mondays, the morning ones will be a little more gentle, more about breath work, doing some light flow. And Thursdays will focus on strengthening, balancing, stretching, all the ever important aspects of yoga. So for just $10 a month through my Patreon page, you'll get access to all of the yoga classes for March. I'll put that here in the chat. So that's patreon.com/Amy Zellmer. If you guys want to get signed up for that, we would love to have you. And as we move into the classes for March, they're going to work a little differently. So these have been Zoom webinar. So only you guys can see us. We can't see you and you can't talk to us and everything. But as we go into the actual practices, we're going to do those through Zoom meeting. And then if you guys would like to have some cueing assistance from me, like to tell you, like, lift your hip up or turn to the side, you can leave your camera on and I can give you some cueing assistance. And if you don't want your camera on, that's absolutely okay. So the camera on option will be for those who would like to have some cueing assistance. So those all begin March 1st. So if you signed up through Patreon already, you should have gotten a welcome email from me that had a link to a private Facebook group, which is where I will post all of the replays each day. And then we can also just communicate in there about what we're looking for in upcoming classes. So it would have the link to that. And then I also posted some Amazon links if you're interested in getting a mat or yoga strap, blocks, any of that kind of stuff, which I highly recommend that you do invest in all the tools if you are interested in moving forward with your yoga practice. And again, all the classes will be accessible. I will show you modifications for everything. We'll have Emily here, so you can either watch Emily, who will be doing everything on the mat on the floor, or you can watch me. I'll be doing most things in the chair or with a chair, so that you can learn how to modify poses. And if you want to stay in a chair for the entire practice, you can do that. If you have mobility issues or an injury or balance problems or dysautonomic issues, you can absolutely remain in a chair for the entire practice, for any practice. All right, looks like a few more of you have joined, and I think we can go ahead and get going. So if you guys do have a mat, you'll want your mat if you're going to work on the mat, or you can use your chair if you're going to stay in a chair. I'm not going to necessarily stay in a chair today, but I'm going to show you how to use a chair so that you don't have to get down on the floor. Sorry, just getting my thing going here. And if you have a block, you might want a block. I don't think you'll need a strap today, but a block and your mat and a chair. And today we're going to focus on sun salutations. Sun salutations, some of you might be already familiar with what that means. Kristen said we cannot see Emily. Yep, I don't have Emily up yet. So sun salutations are a very familiar part of yoga. It is a flow series, and this particular flow series is what we often use to move from pose to pose in between going from different sequences. We'll go through sun salutation to take us there. So I thought I would use today to show you guys what a sun salutation is and get you familiar with it and show you how we can modify a sun salutation if you have, any of the different issues that we discussed earlier. All right, so everybody ready? I'm going to bring Emily in here now. Okay, so Emily, I'm going to have you go to your mat. And first of all, I'm just going to go through the sun salutation. I just want you guys to watch at first, and we'll go through it, and I'll show you some modifications on the floor. And then I'll show you some modifications using the chair, and then we can all go through a series of sun salutations, okay? All right, so Emily, come to the top of your mat. And first I'm going to show you a very classic traditional sun salutation. So inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, flat back, look forward. Exhale, step back, Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, push back, downward facing dog. And then we typically hang out here in down dog for a few breaths, just depending on where we are at in the flow of a series. And then from here, we'll inhale, step forward to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to your side. So a few things I want to point out how to properly do each of these parts of the sun salutation. So first of all, she's starting in mountain pose. And if you were on our session a few weeks ago, we really talked about mountain pose and getting our feet in proper alignment. So standing in mountain pose, your feet should be about hip width apart, about 2 fist widths apart. They shouldn't be right next to each other touching, and they shouldn't be wider than your hips. They should be right about hip width, which is about 2 fists apart, or the size of your block. You could put a block between your feet. And then you really want to ground your feet into the earth. You want to lift, Emily, if you can do this, lift your toes up off the floor and spread your toes out. And then place them down one at a time, starting with your pinky toe. And the reason I really want you guys to work on this, because a lot of you will probably find that really uncomfortable trying to lift your toes and spread your toes. Some of you, it'll be a piece of cake, especially if you're like barefooter people. But when we stand with our feet all squished up like this, you don't have as much surface area as if you spread your toes out. So you have a much stronger and more balanced pose starting from the foundation, which is our feet. So we really want to work on putting those feet and toes down. And then from here, you're going to engage your glutes, which is your butt. Engage the thighs, the inner thighs, the hamstrings, the calves. You want to feel all of your leg engaged. You want to feel your core engaged. You want to pull those shoulder blades back and down. And you can slightly externally rotate your arms so that your palms face forward. And your neck and shoulders should be very neutral. You shouldn't be holding any tension in your shoulders and neck. And your gaze is just forward. And so from here, we're going to inhale, bring your arms overhead. And then as you exhale, you're forward folding. Emily, if you can do this really slowly. She is leading from her chest. Her chest is leading the way down to the floor, and the arms are following. And if your hands cannot come all the way to the floor, you can use a block on any of the settings, the low end, the high end, whichever setting you need, or you can simply bring them to your thighs or your calves if you don't have a block. And so that's a forward fold. And then from here, we come up to flat back. So this is, so Emily's back is completely flat. Her head is facing forward. And then we exhale, we step back to Chaturanga. Now, Chaturanga, so we actually come back to a plank pose first. And then we Chaturanga down. And so Emily, look at her doing this so slow. And then we come into up dog. And as you can see, her legs don't actually touch the floor as she does that. So that's a lot of upper body strength. If you're not able to do that, so Emily, if you could go back to plank. So we step back to plank. From here, you could bring your knees down and then lower down, then come up like that, exactly like that. So you can bring your knees to the floor. And if you don't have that upper body strength, I don't want you guys to push yourself. I don't want you to hurt your shoulders by trying to force yourself into doing Chaturanga. Definitely put your knees down if you don't have the upper body strength. Okay, so then go from your knees here, Emily. And then you curl your toe. Yep, come back to your knees. Then you curl your toes under. And then you push up into downward facing dog. And downward facing dog, your feet are pointed forward to the top of the mat. You can see she's almost the length of the mat. The biggest problem I see people do with down dog is they don't go wide enough, and then they're kind of like hunched up. So having that width, and Emily can get her ankles, the heels of her feet, she can get them all the way to the floor. Many people cannot, and yours might bring them up again, Emily. Yours might look like this if you have tight hamstrings. And that's okay, because over time, those hamstrings will start to stretch, and then you'll get more length and you'll be able to get your heels to the floor. So don't worry at all if you can't get them all the way to the floor. You can also put a light bend in your knees if you feel like it's too much of a pull on your body. And then you can see her back is very straight. Her neck is completely neutral. See how she can move her head? Can you give me some yes, no's there? Yeah. And then her sit bones are pushed up to the sky. And that's the biggest cueing advice I can give you is those sit bones go up to the sky, and that helps you lengthen out your body. Emily, you can go ahead and come down to your knees if that's getting to be too long. So that is what down dog looks like. And so going back to that sun salutation, arms overhead, you can stay here for a sec though, Emily. Leading with the chest as we come into our forward fold, keeping those shoulder blades pulled back and down, and then coming up into that flat back. Then we step back into a plank pose and Chaturanga down, and then upward facing dog, and then downward facing dog. Okay, now coming back to down dog, Emily. Now, when we come back from here, we go back to the front of our mat. And if you're new to yoga, it can be challenging to step. So Emily, show us how you step forward. So she can step forward, no problem, okay? This can be challenging for a new person or a person who maybe has a little bit of extra body weight or isn't flexible. So there's a few options that you can take here. The first one is to drop to your knees and then bring that foot forward, right or left, whichever is your more dominant foot, and then bringing the other foot. So dropping the knee is a really helpful way to get there. If you can almost get there, so Emily, like just bring your foot like halfway, like you can't quite get all the way up, and then using your arm to pull it the rest of the way up. Yeah. So if you can almost get there and then use your arm to help pull it the rest of the way, that's totally fine. And then, perfect. And then the other option is you can bring your leg, so bring your leg up and then kind of out to the side, like you're a dog at a fire hydrant. And then, yeah, show that again with your hip. Yeah, so the hip's out like she's at a fire hydrant. And then it's a wider step. So she's stepping out a little ways with that leg. And then she can bring her other foot forward. However you need to get to the front of the mat is perfect. It'll get easier with time. The more you do it, the easier it'll get. The other option is to walk your hands back to your feet and come up, and then literally walk to the front of your mat. So that's another way to do it. That's actually kind of a fun way to do it. Emily likes that way. All right, so come back into down dog. And go ahead and step forward. And you come into flat back, so not quite forward bend here. And then we exhale, forward fold. Inhale. Now, as you inhale, you're going to use those legs. And again, you lead with the chest as you come all the way up and bring the arms overhead. And then the arms come back down to the side. So always using the legs and leading from the chest. That helps protect your low back, okay? So let's do a round, just anyone that wants to join in, if you want to do it on the mat, and then I'll show you the chair. So anyone that is on their mat, go ahead and stand up at the top of your mat. Stand in mountain pose. And again, look down at your feet. Lift those toes, spread the toes out, and then let them come down one at a time, starting with your pinky toe. And then stand nice and tall, shoulder blades back and down. Feel all of your muscles engaging. As you inhale, bring your arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold, leading with your chest. Inhale, halfway up, flat back. Exhale, step back to plank. Chaturanga down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, push back, downward facing dog. And this is your first down dog of the day, so be very gentle with your body. You can bend those knees, kind of bike pedal them, waking up the hamstrings, finding your right fit on the mat. Pushing those sit bones to the sky, the thigh bones push back to the back wall. And just breathe here. Your neck and shoulders should be neutral. Inhale. Exhale. Then on your next inhale, you're going to step forward to your front of your mat, whichever way works for you. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to your side. Okay, so that is a complete sun salutation. And now I'm going to show you some options using a chair. So obviously we can't do a full sun salutation seated in a chair. You can't get any of that upper body motions. So what I'm going to show you guys is standing. Gotta take my slippers off. I always forget about those. I live in my slippers. Okay, so what I'm going to show you guys is how to use a chair to avoid doing inversions. So I'm still going to be standing. If you're not able to stand, you can simply stay in the chair and do your arm movements and your forward folds, okay? But you're not going to get any of the upper body strength. Okay, so I have the chair in front of me. So I'm going to get my body into mountain pose, my feet just hip width apart, lifting my toes, bringing them down one at a time, feeling all the strength in my body, shoulder blades pulled back and down. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. And I'm going to come to the chair. Inhale, flat back. So I'm going to come up a little bit here. Exhale, stepping back. And I'm going to run into something. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to step back. So I'm basically in plank pose on the chair. I'm not going to chaturanga down. I'm going to stay right here. And then I'm going to push back into a down dog. Now, get my hair out of the way so you guys can see me a little better. So I'm pushing my sit bones to the sky, but I still have my heart elevated, so I'm not in an inversion, but I'm getting that beautiful length through my arms and my shoulders, and I can feel the lengthening of my hamstrings. I'm getting a great workout right here without going into the inversion of a down dog. And then from here, we step forward to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms down to the side. All right, now let's all try that together. So if you're on the mat or you're using a chair with me, get your feet hip width apart. Feel the weight evenly distributed through your feet. Feel your body grounding down through the floor. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold, leading with the chest. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step back to plank. You can chaturanga down or bring your knees to the floor. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, push back, downward facing dog. And breathe here. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, push those sit bones high to the ceiling. And exhale. Inhale, shoulder blades are pulled back and down. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And on the next inhale, step forward in whatever way works for you to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to your side. And we're going to do it again. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step back. Plank. Chaturanga down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, pushing back, downward facing dog. And breathe here. Inhale, Sit bones push up to the sky. Exhale. Inhale, keeping the weight to the top of your hand. You shouldn't be pushing all your weight down through your wrist. It should be more evenly distributed. Keeping those fingers wide like we had with your feet. The pointer finger and your middle finger should be pointing forward parallel with your mat. Exhale. Another big inhale. Exhale. Inhale, step forward, whatever way works for you to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to your side. Let's do one more if you can. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step back to plank. Chaturanga down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And breathe. Inhale, sit bones to the sky. Exhale. Inhale, push the thigh bones to the back of the room. Exhale. Inhale, feel your feet grounding into the floor. Exhale. One more inhale. Exhale. Inhale, step forward. Flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to your side. Now I'll have you turn to the side of your mat and we can add on. I believe it was last week we worked on the warrior poses. It might have been the week before. So first I'm going to have Emily demonstrate. I'm going to come up here for a moment. So Emily, let's say we just did a sun salutation and you are in down dog. Step your right foot forward and come up to warrior one. So this is how we would transition from a sun salutation into another series of poses. So again, warrior one is basically a lunge, but her back foot is turned out. Her front foot, the knee is above the ankle. Her hips are parallel to the front. And her arms are overhead, shoulder blades back and down. And as always, if you have shoulder issues, you can keep your arms on your hips, your hands on your hips, sorry, not your arms. And then from here, exhale, bring your arms to the sides, turn to the side of your mat, straighten the front leg, gaze over your right arm, exhale into warrior two. Now, if you guys remember, I talked about the schizophrenic hips in this pose. That front hip, her right hip is facing the front. The left hip is opened up and turned out slightly. So your hips are kind of doing two different things here, but it's important to keep that right hip facing forward. And from here, we're going to exhale, bring your right arm to your right thigh into side angle pose. And feeling the nice stretch through the entire left side of the body. And then as you exhale, using your legs, push all the way up. And turn to your front of your mat, bring both hands to the floor. And step back into downward facing dog. And then we'll do the left side. So we could either, sorry, Emily, we could either go through a complete sun salutation and come back to down dog, or we could just come to down dog and then do the left side. And that's what I'm going to do right here. So come back into your down dog and go ahead and step your left foot forward and come up into warrior one. So Emily, I'm gonna have you do that again, because from this angle, we could really see your foot well. So when you first came up from down dog, bring your left foot forward. See how her right foot, nope, stay there. Keep it up on the toes. See, when you first come down from down dog and stepping that left leg forward, she's up on her toes. And then as she comes up into warrior one, she drops that foot down. And it's turned out to the side. And both of her hips are facing the front of the mat. Her arms are up. Exhale, bring your arms to the side and turn to the side of your mat. Straighten the front leg. Gaze over your left arm. Bend that left leg as you come into warrior two. Keeping that front hip forward. The right hip is opened up to the side. Exhale, drop your left arm to your left thigh. Arm overhead into side angle pose. And breathe. Exhale, use your legs to push all the way up. And then bring your hands to the floor and step back into downward facing dog. Okay, now let's see how that will look using the chair. Gets just a little cumbersome, but with the chair, but we can work around it, okay? So we're gonna start in downward facing dog on our chair. And then we're gonna step our right foot forward, and our chair might be in the way, in which case you just wanna take like a step back, okay? And then our hips facing forward, we come up into warrior one. Again, you could leave your hands on your hips. Warrior one. Exhale as we turn to the side of our mat. Straighten the front leg. Gaze over our right arm, bend into warrior two. And exhale, right arm to the right thigh, arm overhead into side angle pose. Exhale, come all the way up using your legs. Turn to the front, bring your hands to the chair, and step back into downward facing dog. From here, we'll step our left leg forward. And again, I'm up on my toes. And as I come up into warrior one, I drop that foot, keeping my hips to the front, bending that front leg, keeping the knee above the ankle. Exhale, open up our arms to the side, straighten the front leg. Gaze over your left arm as you bend that front leg into warrior two. Exhale, drop the left arm, right arm comes overhead. Side angle pose. Exhale, use your legs to come all the way up. Bring your hands to the chair and step back into downward facing dog. And you can come to your knees or come up to standing. And I'll show you, if you prefer to stay in the chair, not stand, I'll show you what a sun salutation can look like, keeping in mind that we're not really able to modify into a down dog. I encourage you to have a block in front of you. And we need to bring our legs a little bit wider so we have room for our body to forward fold. So again, with our feet, we want to work on strengthening our foundation. So lifting your toes, spreading them out, putting them down one at a time. So we have a great foundation, even though we're seated in a chair. Engaging our core, pulling our shoulder blades back and down. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, leading from the chest. Coming to our block. Inhale, halfway up. And then exhale, everyone else would step back into downward facing dog. But we can just stay here. Again, keeping our heart elevated. If inversions are challenging. If they're not challenging for you, you can bring your hands all the way to the floor, giving your thighs a nice deep stretch. And then they would step a foot forward and come into warrior one. So in your chair, you can simply pivot, bring that left leg behind you, the right leg in front of you, turning your hips to the front and bringing your arms overhead. And then coming into warrior and slightly bending forward. And then into side angle. And then as they come up and go back into down dog, you can come back into a forward fold. And then the left side, same thing. You'll bring your right leg back. Turn your hips to the left, arms overhead. And then we come into warrior two. And then side angle. And then come back to our version of down dog. So you can always remain in the chair. You do not have to stand. You do not have to do inversions. Do what your body wants. Listening to your body. Listening, it will tell you everything you need to know. If you go into an inversion and you get lightheaded and woozy, I have two thoughts on this. Sometimes when we get into our first down dog of the day, you might feel that little bit of a head rush, right? Because we live in a very upright world. We're sitting at a computer all day or driving a car. So when you get into that first down dog, you might get a little bit of a head rush. That's typical for anybody, regardless if they have dysautonomic issues. I know Emily just the other day said she felt super lightheaded, and that's not normal for her. Sometimes if you have a head cold or inner ear things going on, inversions can be bothersome. But if you feel like it's going to pass, I encourage you to listen to your body. Is this going to pass, or is my body saying don't do this? You can always bring your knees down and come out of down dog. You do not have to hold it. At any time, you can bring your knees down. If you want to try it again and do it again, and sometimes that second down dog, our bodies are like, okay, cool, I know what's going on now. The blood's flowing, I'm in a flow. But if that down dog just like spikes your heart rate, if it just goes, whoa, you know that that's a dysautonomic problem. If it makes you feel like you're going to black out, come down to your knees. Listen to your body. We're all at different places in our recoveries. We all have different injuries. Some days I can do inversions and some days I can't. So you just have to listen to your body. Okay, who's ready to do the series? Let's put it all together. All right, so come to either the floor. Tiffany said that's a modification I needed. I'm not sure if she's referring to down dog or which one, but we can cover that later. Okay. So come to your mat or come to your chair. Let's get into our strong mountain pose, looking down at our toes, lifting our toes from the floor, spreading them out, dropping them down one at a time. Feeling our thighs engage, our glutes, our core. Shoulder blades are pulled back and down, externally rotating our shoulders so our hands are forward. Inhale, bring our arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step back to plank. Chaturanga down. Upward facing dog. Exhale, push back, downward facing dog. Inhale, pull those sit bones to the sky. Exhale. Inhale, pulling the thigh bones to the back of the room. Exhale. Inhale, checking the weight of your hands, putting the weight to the front of your hands, not the back. Exhale. Inhale, step forward, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to the side. Inhale, bring our arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step back to plank. Chaturanga down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, push back, downward facing dog. And breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And on your next inhale, step the right foot forward. Coming up into warrior one, hips facing the front of the room, bending that front knee, making sure your knee stays over the ankle. Breathe. Exhale, turning to the side of your mat, arms out to the side, straightening the front leg, gazing over your right arm as you bend into warrior two, keeping the knee over the ankle, using your thigh muscles to pull your leg to the right. Exhale as you drop your right arm to your right thigh, left arm overhead into side angle pose. Exhaling, using your legs to come all the way up, and then turn to the front. Bring your hands down, step back into downward facing dog. And breathe. I'm going to run you through a sun salutation before we do the left side. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale as you step forward to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to your side. Inhale, arms all the way up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step back plank. Chaturanga down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, push back. Downward facing dog. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, stepping that left foot forward. Coming up into warrior one. Keeping those hips pointed to the front. And the knee over the ankle. Exhale as you turn to the side, straighten that front leg, arms to the side, gazing over your left arm as you bend the left leg into warrior two. Exhale, bring your left arm to your left leg, arm overhead into side angle pose. Exhale, use your legs, push all the way up, and then bring your hands to your foot and step back, downward facing dog. Your next inhale, step forward to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to your side. Let's do one more sun salutation. Arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step back to plank, chaturanga down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Inhaling. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Go ahead, drop your knees to the floor. You can cross your ankles and come to sitting. I'm going to come up into my chair. If you're on the floor, come to a comfortable cross-legged position. Let's take a breath. Inhale, arms overhead. Interlace those fingers. Stretch all the way up. Inhale as you bend to the right. Exhale, come to center. Inhale, bend to the left. Exhale, back to center. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, release your arms. Bring your left arm up and across, using your right arm to help hold it there, stretching out our shoulder. And release. And bring up your right arm and stretch across. And release. And if you're on the floor, change the cross of your legs. And bring your right hand to your left knee. Sit up nice and tall on your sit bones. Inhale. As you exhale, twist to the left, bringing your left arm behind you. Exhale, release. Bring your left hand to your right knee. Inhale, sit up nice and tall. Exhale as you twist to the right. And release back to center. And then just give yourself a nice little rounded back. Little forward bend here. You can pivot your hips a little if that feels nice. And then you can bring your feet straight, or your legs straight out in front of you. And engaging your legs and your core, sitting up nice and tall through your sit bones, flexing your toes to your nose. Inhale nice and tall, and as you exhale, forward fold as far as is comfortable without rounding your low back. And on the exhale, see if you can go just a little deeper. And then come all the way up. And if you're on the floor, I'm going to have you lay on your back for final relaxation pose. If you are staying seated in the chair, you can sit back to the back of your chair, resting your back. If you're on the mat, bring your feet about hip width apart. About mat width apart. Your arms to your side, palms up. Allow your eyes to close if that's comfortable, or just simply lower your gaze. Bring your awareness to your breath as you inhale and exhale. Feeling your chest rise and fall. Allowing your body to relax into the floor. Releasing any tension from your toes and your feet, from your legs and your thighs. Releasing your hips, your tummy, your chest, and your shoulders, your arms, your fingers, and your hands. Relax your neck and your throat. Relax your tongue. Release any tension from your jaw. Relax your forehead. Soften your eyes. And just feel your body melt into the floor. Bringing your awareness to your breath. And I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes. And if any unwanted thoughts should enter your mind, simply release them without judgment and come back to your breath. Slowly bring your awareness back to your breath, feeling it flowing in and out of your body, feeling your chest rise on the inhale and fall on the exhale. Slowly bringing sensation back into your body. Slowly wiggling your fingers and your toes. And slowly open your eyes and bring your awareness back to your surroundings. And slowly, as you're ready, roll onto your side, allowing your head to rest on your arm. Straightening your top leg, using both of your hands to push yourself back up to seated. Your head coming up last. Come into a seated cross-legged position, or if you're in the chair, come back to the front of your chair. And let's take one final breath together. Inhale, bringing our arms overhead, palms together. Exhale, bringing our hands to heart center. Namaste. How's everyone feeling? Go ahead and come back to the chat and let me know how that was for you. Let me know, did you do the full poses? Did you do the modifications? What worked for you today in your practice? Donna said that was a great workout. Tiffany, I'm curious which modification you really enjoyed. Janelle said, thank you. I really appreciate your cues, like reminders for fingers, toes. It's also important because, I mean, even the most seasoned yogi forgets proper posture at times. Kristen did the chair modifications. Rachel modified poses and felt more oxygen running through me. That is the best part of yoga. We get that blood flowing and it's bringing oxygen to our brain. I mean, I think you guys will be pretty, I'm curious for those of you who've done it like the last 4 weeks, if you're feeling a difference in your balance and your strength. Melissa said, thank you. Nice ways to close my day. Teresa did full poses, great routine to learn. Tiffany, the modification to avoid inversions were very helpful. Great. Yes. Not all of us can do inversions. And like I said, some days I can do inversions and some days I can't. Mary could only do modifications and I had to modify those, but gotta try so I know my limits. Absolutely, Mary. That's the whole point. Just, it's your practice, doing what feels good to you in the moment. And, you know, when I first started getting back into yoga after my accident, I really could only do like 5 poses. And I just did those 5 poses every day. And it was amazing how quickly I started getting mobility back in my body and, you know, the oxygen flowing, and it helped with my dizziness and my balance. You know, especially some of us tend, like I didn't do any exercise for like the first year, and our body needs movement. Melissa said, relaxing, good O2, feeling better after weeks of work, more flexible, great. Teresa said, yes, definitely feel a difference in my muscles and strength in my legs and arms. Great post about you in 5 poses. Love how it makes me feel empowered. Yes, yes. Even the modified poses, they're empowering, and, you know, feeling that strength in your body. You know, like I said, if you have the shoulder issues and have to keep your arms down, but, you know, it's still broadening that chest. and just keeping that empowerment in our bodies. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you to those of you who've been here every week. I'm really excited to kick off our series in March. If you haven't already, are you doing it, Emily? Okay. If you haven't already, head to the Patreon site, and for just $10 a month, you'll get access to all of our March. If $10 a month is just really too much for you, please let me know. We'll make it work. Emily just put the link in there. I just really want to help you all get back to feeling better in our bodies. And yoga has the power. Like I said, it allows us to listen to our body, and our body will tell us everything we need to know. And if we listen, it'll tell us what it needs. And yoga is such a great tool to help us listen. So thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you throughout March. Look for that welcome email. If you already signed up, you should have already gotten it like the day after you signed up or so. And hop into the Facebook group. And if you have any requests for poses that you want to learn, or if there's like terms you've heard but you don't know, let me know in the Facebook group, and we will try to cover those in upcoming classes. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. And I'll see you guys next week, and watch for an email this weekend with the Zoom links. I also posted them in the Facebook group. I pinned them in there so that they're always there, but I'll also send out the email this weekend. All right. Thank you, everyone.
You're still recording.
Oh, I always forget that part.